Hello, welcome to Lessons Learned. I'm Sherry. This is your Wednesday video. We're going to have a little fun project here. I say little because it's not going to take very long, I don't believe. And it's pretty easy and it's fun. So it's getting to be fall time and we're pulling out the sweatshirts. Maybe we've got some just plain sweatshirts that we'd like to dress up a little bit. Or maybe you, like me, and you just need to go out and buy a couple of new ones. Mine were getting pretty raggedy. So I went out and got a couple of new ones. I got this one at Myers, and it's the Vively brand. It's so luxurious, and it has this nice fleece, soft fleece on the inside. I got it in kind of a spruce green. It looks a little bit kind of olivey green on the camera, but it is definitely a sprucey kind of green, kind of leans more towards a blue green than it does a yellow green. And then I also got a hoodie out of the same, I believe it's the same brand. Yes, this is from my Myers store, if I didn't mention that, but you might be able to find this brand on Amazon or other stores in your area. But this one is a hoodie, as I said, with a pocket in the bottom and the hood. So I'm going to do one of these shirts today, and then I'm going to continue to work on the other one through the week. And by Friday, I'll have both of the shirts finished for you to see on Finish It Friday. So make sure you're subscribed and you've got your notification bell on so that you can see the result. Now you will see the result of this one today. I will show you that finished one, but if you want to see both of them, come back on Friday. So here is the thing. A friend of mine sent me I believe it was an Instagram reel, which has since disappeared. But I watched the reel and I loved the project. If any of you know who that reel belonged to, or just by chance you are the one that decided to put that reel out there and you're the creator of this project, please identify yourself below. If I come across it before I get this video edited and put up, I will put your information in the description box for you. And even later, if we find out later, I'll go back and put that in. So I didn't get all the information that I needed, but I remember how she did it, and I'm going to try to replicate it today for you. Okay, so I got a really big shirt here. This is a 1X. I usually wear like a large or an extra large in a sweatshirt, but I like them to be really roomy. So I got a 1X, and yeah, it's going to be a cozy sweatshirt. This is a 9.5 inch square ruler. This is about where your design would need to go, between here and here, and you can definitely measure, and then probably about 3 inches from the bottom of the crew neck. You could go a little bit lower if you wanted to, I think. Maybe about like that. Something like that. It doesn't have to be exact. I probably would not go bigger than this. Now, all of you know that I am in love with 16 patches, and that's my favorite little block, and I use scraps to make these scraps and then a common fabric in between. So I'm not going to use one of my 16 patches. I need something just a tiny bit bigger. So I think, now here are my bin of 2.5 inch squares. I think what I'm going to do is kind of pull out 25. I think instead of a 16 patch, I'm going to make a 25 because this is going to get sewn in. It might be a tad bit bigger than the 9.5 inch ruler, but not much. So I think I'm going to do a 25 patch, and I'm going to do all greens. Everything that has kind of a green look to it. Let me just I'm not sure. That's pretty on there, but I'm not sure that's going to work. Let's see what we can do here. Well, that just made a lot of ravelings down here. But I think this is what I'm going to end up with. Once I get that sewn together, it's going to shrink down quite a bit, probably just barely over my 9.5-inch square there. I'm looking at this and I'm not quite liking this one. So I'm going to switch that out. And I'm going to try to do every other. This one doesn't have much green in it either. Let me keep looking here for a couple more. I'm looking up in the camera where you are to see what it looks like from a distance, because that usually gives us the best view of what it is really going to look like from a distance, because when you got it right up in front of you, sometimes you just don't really see what it's going to look like because you're too close to it. It looks great from here, but I'm looking up in the camera and I'm like, I don't know that I like that one. I don't know that I like that one. And then I need to put something here. Let's see. Let me do one more here somewhere. I'm really making a mess of my scraps here. My 2.5-inch, I've rifled through them and they're a little bit out of order now. That kind of drives me crazy, but I'll fix it. Let's see. Let me grab another stack I haven't looked at yet. Here we go. Okay, how's that look? Let's do dark light, and see if we can kind of get a feel for what this is going to look like. A lot of mediums. That's what most of my fabric is mediums. You know, I think I'm going to take out the bird. I think I need smaller prints. I have a bird here, so this one can go here and up here. And then let's see what else. I need a light one, don't I? Here we go. This might work. Alrighty. Now I'm not liking this stripe. See, you just gotta mess with it for a while to get it looking like you want it. Here's one. I think this might be good. Oh, that one's awfully light. Here we go. I'll move these around again probably before it's all over. And I know I do have the yellow greens and the blue greens in here, but I think it does give a little bit of a pop to everything. Okay. Is that gonna do it? Kind of trying to get the dark light, sort of. I've got some things that are right here. Let's try this. All kinds of different prints in here. This would be pretty too if you did all Batiks. I have a couple of Batiks in here, or at least there's one. Here's a K facet right there. There's a lot of good fabrics in here. Here's the oldest piece of fabric I own. Got to put that in there. This is cactus. Kind of like it down there on the bottom. Okay, so let me go ahead and sew this up. I'll do 4 patches, and then I'll put this on, and then I'll put this on. Okay, I'll be right back with that. Okay, so here's where we're headed. I have my square, all my patchwork all done. My big patchwork square. If you're new to sewing and you've just happened upon this video, I just did a 1/4 inch seam allowance between the squares, and I ironed them open. And I would iron them open even if you're accustomed to pressing to one side and nesting, because you want this to be as comfortable as possible against your body. So the flatter the better. The next step is going to be to quilt this before we put it on our shirt. So I have here a soft piece of white. So if you've got a lightweight white piece here, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what color it is. It's never going to be seen until you turn this shirt out inside out. So it doesn't really matter. So just any sort of piece that you have laying around, just cut it a couple inches bigger than this. Also, some very thin batting. Now, this is actually like craft batting, and it's non-fusible, which means it doesn't have any sticky on it. If you have the sticky type, that would be ideal. You could just go ahead and press this down onto your back, and then with your top onto it. So if it's double-sided fusible, that would be ideal. Or even one-sided fusible. I don't know. Do they make fleece with one side fused and one not? I can't remember now. But this does not have any fusible in it. And look how thin it is. So I didn't want anything really bulky. But you probably could use 100% cotton quilt batting. You know, a thinner type. If you get the polyester in it, it starts getting fluffy. So if you have any 100% cotton batting scraps, if you don't have this and you don't want to buy this, just use that. Don't go out and buy this if you don't have it already. So what I'm going to do, I don't have, yeah, mine's not fusible. So I'm going to use some, what I have over here is some basting spray. It's actually, no wait, I don't want to use that. That one's stinky. Let me see here. I have something here called 505. I don't know which one's open. Maybe this one. You could probably use just regular craft glue too, like Elmer's glue, because it will wash out. So to be able to quilt this, I'm just going to go ahead and put just a little bit right there like that. Just a little. Just enough to hold it in place so it doesn't slide on you. And you can press that if you want to. So you're going to take this over to the machine, and if you're not a quilter, you can still do this. It's not hard. Set your stitch length long, like 3.5 to 4. Put in a pretty shade of thread that you want to use here, or something neutral like a cream or an antique white or something like that. I think I might see if I have some interesting green shade, a green shade I could use. And then you take this whole sandwich over to your sewing machine. You can either stitch in the ditch, stitch on either side of your seams to kind of make a finished seam, and then this way also. Or you could go from corner to corner and then back across like a crosshatch. I think that's what I'm going to do. So, yeah, I'm going to go over and do that, and I'll be right back with the next steps. Getting exciting. It turns out that I have this beautiful, sulky, variegated, and look at the colors. Isn't that perfect? I'm going to put that on top. And I've just got my regular, I think I've got like a muslin colored thread on the bottom. Looks like I might be about to run out, so I may just go ahead and fill me up another bobbin with that thread before I get started. That way I don't have to stop while I'm quilting. I can tell this thread, this silky thread, is just a tiny bit thicker too, it seems like. Not sure what the weight is on it. I've already got it on the machine, but I think it's going to show up really nice. I have a 14 top stitch needle on. It might be a 12, but 14 would be better. And you can put your quilting foot on if you want, but since this is such a small piece, I don't think you'd have to. And you can also draw the lines on with disappearing quilting marking pen if you wanted. I'm just gonna wing it and just shoot for these corners. I think I can do it. Putting my stitch up to, let's just do a, I think I just want to do a 3. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's going to be good. 3 is your normal top stitch length you would use on garments, but I have gone up to 4 before when I'm quilting. I want to really see those stitches. Yeah, that looks nice. Starting to see those colors coming through. I'm not the straightest quilter, but I don't think anybody's going to really notice. Hope not. It's the first time I've done one of these like this on a sweatshirt. But we'll see how it looks, and we can always learn from our mistakes or our regrets. I don't think I'll regret this. I'm not too picky. I actually thought about doing a like a postage stamp size, and I thought, well, I could do that, but it's going to take a long time to put that block together. In the interest of time, I just went with my 2.5-inch squares and made it a little bit bigger than the 16 patch and went with the 25 patch. Yeah, I'm seeing all kinds of colors from that thread. Yellow, green, blue. Kind of gives some dimension. I'll show you in a minute when I get finished here. See how quick this is? And that one little spray of glue through those layers was just right. It's holding it in place really good. Okay, that's one direction. Now let's do the other direction. Starting to get a little poof. A little bit of that quilting poof that we like to see, but not much, not too much. It's going to look quilted, but it's not going to be bulky. Some people say they like to just travel down and flip it around without cutting the thread. I like to go in the same direction on one side, and then when I flip it, I always have the bulk of my project over here. So I will flip it when I do this side, but I don't mind cutting the threads on these because it's short. Yeah, this is looking good. That's it. That's all the time it took to quilt that. And look at our little patchwork square. Isn't that cute? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to the table and trim this excess off, all of it. So let's move over there so you can see what I'm going to do. All right, this is roughly a 10¼ inch block, I think. I'm just going to go right along the edge and just kind of give it a squaring up. And you know what I really like to do? I like to find a line, a seam line over here, and make sure that's straight. Because that'll make sure that, you know, we're not going to get a sideways cut of some kind. And you can see right here it left just a little bit of, yeah, so I'm going to do that again. Looks like I'm about 2¼ over on my seam line. 1, 2¼ That way it'll be nice and square no matter how you look at it. Okay. Now what we're going to do, you're going to be so amazed. Okay, first I'm going to get my exact position where I want it. So I'm going to kind of measure from here. Let's do from here. That's 5 3/4. 5 1/2. Maybe I should do from the actual, let's do it this way, from this seam right here on my armpit. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 1/8. 7 and 1/8. Is that what that was? 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 1/8. And this one's 7 and 5/8. I don't know. Let me make sure I got the back straight. Okay. That's about 7 1/4. And now this one's almost 8. Why is that? 7 1/2. 7 1/2. That's where it needs to be. And then this needs to be, I'm thinking about 3 inches. Let's see how that looks from the bottom of that ribbed crew neck. That's 3 1/4. Let's do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, because we're going to be sewing this in a very unconventional way, I'm going to stick this. You can take any mat you have, stick under here without moving anything. And I'm going to do some marking with some pins. I'm going to take 4 pins and I'm going to mark right on the corners. And I'm going to take up about 1/4 of an inch of that pin. Now that 1/4 of an inch of metal on that pin is going to be showing on the underside of your shirt. And then where's my other 2 pins? Right here. Okay. And there's another one here. There it is. Okay, so that marks where your thing is going to go when we turn this wrong side out. So don't jostle your pins around because you need those to stay in place. And so now you can see, where's that one? Right there. Okay, I don't know if you can see the shiny, but it's shining right here, here, and here. Actually, it's right there. And make sure you're doing the front of your shirt, not the back of your shirt. And then I'm gonna stick this back in here so that I can pin my block down. So if there's like a right and a wrong to this for you, you know, like this, you want to make sure you get that right. So now you want to put those tips of your, where'd that pen go? There it is. Right there. And then these down here should line up too. Alrighty. So let's put some pins in there. See what kind of pins I want to use for this. I'll just use a bunch of these applique pins. We're just going to do a bunch of them everywhere. And you're going to keep your shirt wrong side out while you sew this. All these pins are just to keep this steady so you can sew around the edge. Also, you can take a basting stitch around the edge of this too if you're worried about, you know, your seam allowance falling off, falling over and out beyond things. I think I'll put a couple more pins right here. There wasn't a lot of instructions on the reel that I saw of the originator of this idea. So I am just kind of going on my own experience as far as how this is going to go. So now we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew a good heavy 1/4 of an inch all the way around. Now if you remember, I had some edges where my batting was bigger than my front of my block. So I want to make sure and catch those. I'm going to reduce my stitch length back down to like a 2 or less. And go about, I think I may go a heavy 1/4 inch all the way around. And I may go around twice. I'm not sure. I'm going to take a look at it when I get done and then decide. I changed back to my neutral colored thread, which is kind of a, I think it's called muslin. It's kind of a really light tan color or cream color. So I'm on the inside here. My block is on the inside of the front of the sweatshirt. What's going to be very important is making sure that the back of the sweatshirt isn't getting caught up in the stitching of this. So you're going to want to make sure your sleeves are out of the way, and the band around the bottom of your shirt, of the back of the shirt, is out of the way, so that you can make these stitches all the way around this square. So do a lot of feeling around and don't do any long fast stitching. You're going to want to be careful. So right now I can feel right here in front of me there's no other layers under my hands except what I see right here. So I'm going to go ahead and back stitch, and I'm going to turn my, first of all, I'm going to turn my stitching down to about a 2. And yes, I did start in the middle of the square. I just wanted a nice stable area to start in. So here I go at the corner. I'm going to lift my foot up and pivot. Now here's another time you're going to really want to feel what's under there. Make sure there's no sleeves under there, no back of the sweatshirt, nothing like that. And of course, don't stretch your sweatshirt as you're sewing. Just be very gentle with it. And you can't check enough times to see if there's anything under there that shouldn't be where you're sewing. So just go slow and be patient with yourself. You can also use the neckline to pull some of the bulk through and keep it out of your way as you're stitching. You've also got those pins there as kind of as an orientation point. The 4 pins that we put on the front, those are still in there, so use those to guide you around as well. Okay, so I have a side and a half done. So let's see what is under here that I don't want under here. Just have to play around with it, just like you do when you're doing free motion quilting. You have to maneuver things around. And again, I'm using a 1/4 inch seam all the way around this. And I've come up on one of my corner pins again, so I want to make sure the corner of my block is right at that pin that I put on the front, and I can see it, so everything's landing where it's supposed to. So I've got 2.5 sides done. Again, make sure you're feeling underneath, that there's no sleeves under there, nothing from the back of your sweatshirt, anything like that. So far, so good. And look, that pin is right at the corner of my block. That's a good sign that everything is going to be straight when we reveal this design on this sweatshirt. You're going to love it. Okay, so all I have is half of one side here to finish. Here we go. Now I can take my pins out, don't need those anymore, and turn your sweatshirt right side out. And you're going to say, wait, I can't see my little quilt I made. My quilt block, I can't see it. Where is it? I'll show you in just a second. Let's go back over to the table and I'll show you how we're going to see that again. Here we are back at the cutting table, and I am going to have to recreate the scene of the crime. I did not push play when I showed you how to reveal your quilt block. So if you look here, I have 3 pieces sitting on top. What I did is I pulled this up and I cut a little hole, and then I cut this way and this way and this way to reveal my block. Now I left about 1/4 of an inch of my fleece, of my sweatshirt fleece, okay? And then I went down here and I cut down this way, and up. It doesn't matter. You just need to get in there and make sure you're holding this up when you're cutting, because you don't want to cut through your quilt block. So now I have a nice little edge. It is a raw edge, but sweatshirt fleece does not ravel, so it will never ravel. What will happen is it will curl more, and you can actually cut it a little bigger if you like that, you know, raggediness that it's going to create. You can make it wider and see what it does over time. I'm just leaving mine kind of narrow. That's what I'm doing. But cut it nice and straight, and you know, whatever width you want, that's what you can have. So there we go. I love this. I love this. Sorry for losing that footage, or not even recording that footage, but you get the idea. It's not hard. And this is not heavy at all. It's actually probably exactly the same weight as your sweatshirt. So it's not going to feel bulky against your body. And that's why I say use that really thin craft fleece instead of full-on quilt batting. You can use quilt batting if you want that. Not a problem. It's just going to be a little bit puffier and a little bit bulkier. But if that doesn't bother you, then go for it. So let me get you some nice pictures of the shirt to close out this video. And then I will also be doing this one before Friday. So let me know what you think I should do on this one. I don't have to do the scrap. I can do any kind of block I want. So also, I even thought this one, since it's got a lot going on, not only could you use a smaller motif here, you could also put one just up on the one side like that. So, you know, that would be super easy, wouldn't it? Wouldn't take long at all. Orphan blocks, paper pieced blocks, anything you have, anything you want to create to put on your shirt will work. And any size. This is kind of the size that made sense to me, but you can use any size. You could have several smaller ones, or some arrangement of smaller ones. You could have something going down one side. The possibilities are endless. I love projects like this because it really lets your creativity shine. So let me get a close-up of this to close out this video, and I will see you back here on Friday with both of these shirts finished, and I'll probably have one of them on. Be sure and be subscribed and turn on your notifications bell so that you could come back and see what I finished this week, which will include these and other things that I've been working on this week. And some of the finishes that you all have done this week will be on display on Friday's episode. All right, we'll see you then. Have a great fun time sewing. Bye.